see here. I don't know when I do this. Okay, well, thank you. And first, of course, as I'm sure you all heard, our wonderful colleague from California, Senator Feinstein, has announced that she is not seeking another term. We're all glad she's remaining with us in the Senate and will be fighting the fight for the next year and a half. Quiet. And she'll be fighting the fight with us for the next year and a half. But she's a legend in California as the first woman senator, a legend in this Senate. She was the leader on so many different issues: assault weapons, environment, women's rights, and so much else. She approached everything studiously and carefully, but she had passion that accompanied her detailed knowledge of the facts. And she was able to convince people on both sides of the aisle to go along with her on issue after issue after issue. I first got to know her when she carried the assault weapons bill in the Senate. I was a Congress member and carried it in the House, and the guidance she gave of how to get it through the House, the help she gave by lobbying various House members, was just incredible. So she's an amazing person. She spoke at our caucus. She gave a very heartwarming and teary address because she talked about her husband and how she so regretted his loss. And he was her true partner. We all knew Dick Blum and loved him as well. And she got a standing ovation that lasted minutes and minutes and minutes, one of the longest I've ever seen, which shows the love that our caucus and our country have for this wonderful, wonderful leader and legend, Dianne Feinstein. Okay. Now, also welcome back. Happy Valentine's Day, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chuck.
I guess I forgot the red.
Yeah.
We had a great, I'm happy to be joined by Senators Durbin, Klobuchar, and Padilla. We had a great lunch. We discussed many topics, but of course one of the biggest is judges. Today we reached a milestone. We confirmed the 100th judicial nominee of the Biden administration as Judge Mendez Miro. 100 judges. That's more than in either of the two previous administrations at this point. 100 judges who will bring balance and excellence back to the federal judiciary, who will be a great countervailing force against some of the hard-right MAGA judges that President Trump and the Republicans put in. There are 100 judges who are going to expand diversity and dynamism of the bench. There are 100 judges who embody the very best, not just of our judicial system, but of our country: experience, level-headedness, and fidelity to the Constitution. So today's a good day to reflect on these lasting accomplishments. This is one of our legacies. We talk about all the bills we passed this summer, but this is one of the most important and lasting legacies that Congress and this Congress, the past Congress and this Congress, will have. Today, because of Senate Democrats, our federal judiciary is far more balanced, more diverse, more experienced than the one the country had 2 years ago. The bench now has more public defenders, civil rights lawyers, environmental rights lawyers than we've had before. Of the 100 judges we've confirmed, listen to this, 76 are women. You say, well, why is more than a majority women? Because women had been left out for decades, and now we're restoring that. We're restoring that. Same thing with people of color. 68 are people of color, 33 black judges, 25 black women judges, 21 from Hispanic backgrounds. We are all so proud of all of that. We've also confirmed the first Muslim American and first Native American federal judge in history. You say, this is the first time? Yep, but it's there. And then, of course, we confirmed the first black woman ever to sit on the United States Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who, by the way, was also the first public defender on the Supreme Court. This morning we received, let's go to the next subject. This morning we received an all-senators briefing on the unknown objects shot down over the past week. In the briefing, the military and intelligence people outlined their approach to each of the 4 objects. We're learning more about these objects hour by hour, day by day, and we're continuing to work with Canada to recover the objects shot down. What I can say after our briefing is that the defense and intelligence agencies are focused like a laser on gathering every piece of the information, analyzing that new information they have, and coming up with comprehensive actions that we have to take now and on into the future. So it was a very, very good briefing. What we saw over the weekend is that if this administration sees any threat to the American people or American interests, they will take appropriate action. And I believe the action they took in all 4 of the objects that we've seen have been appropriate. The military intelligence agencies are working around the clock to get a more comprehensive picture of what's happening and recovering more evidence. Now, we still have questions about why they didn't discover these balloons sooner, these objects sooner, and balloons. Senator Tester is going to lead our caucus in investigating this. It's a good question. We need to answer it. Okay. And finally, we concluded with some happy and sad news about Dianne Feinstein and her great legacy. I'm going to conclude on this Valentine's Day with some very happy news. This is Noah. Sorry. Noah's my 4-year-old. He's on my head. This is Henry Alexander Wayland Schumer, age 5 days, with his grandpa. And we are very, very, very happy.
In front of a microphone?
Yeah.
I'm not calling on Durbin, but I will. Senator Durbin.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Chuck, congratulations. Let me just add my thanks to Senator Schumer for his help, his necessary, essential help in moving these judicial nominees on the floor of the Senate. We haven't lost a judge, and I hope we won't. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the Judiciary Committee, which Senator Padilla and Senator Klobuchar serve upon, have put in countless hours to reach this point. We have now passed both the Trump administration's first 2 years and the Obama administration's first 2 years in terms of approval of judges. I'm happy to report that every single nominee submitted by the White House was found well qualified by the American Bar Association. That was not true with the previous president. It is true in this case. And as Chuck has mentioned, we've moved toward diversity in areas that have made history. We now have more women of color on the circuit courts of America than ever in the entire history preceding these 2 years. It's a dramatic achievement, and the nominees are certainly well qualified and diversified in their background. We have more to do. There are 100 today, but 36 more on the calendar and more on the way. We want to fill these vacancies in a timely manner. I'm working now with Republicans, asking for their cooperation. During the Trump years, there were 120 blue slip requests from Democrats for judges to be appointed during the Trump years. So far, only 12 Republicans under the Biden administration have done the same. So I'm encouraging them to work with us and fill vacancies even in red states. I think we can do it, and I think the legacy of this achievement is not felt as much now as it will be in the years to come. We're going to have more diversity and more balance on the bench.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you, and thank you, Dick, for your good work, and congratulations to Chuck. And it was truly a beautiful talk today, not only by Senator Feinstein and talking about what she'd been through the last few years, but also Senator Padilla, who we all learned got his start in government working with Dianne, and he also gave some beautiful remarks about her life. Timely, of course, her work on guns, given what just happened in Michigan. And, of course, we are thinking of those families in that state right now, those that are still wounded and in the hospital, and those that have lost loved ones. As you all know, it is the Democratic Party that has been standing up now for years to take action on gun violence, and we are not giving up and are proud of the work we've done, but we know there's so much more to do. I wanted to talk about the surveillance issue and the shooting down of the unidentified objects from a few perspectives, as well as the surveillance balloon. The first being that it was a Duluth airman who shot the unidentified object down over Lake Huron, and it just goes to show whether you're looking or talking about Alaska or Minnesota or Wisconsin, the importance of our National Guard airmen, and that we have capacities outside of certain big bases all over our country, and we're proud of the work that they did. But I think that the discussion about the original balloon and our approach and the investigation that Senator Tester is going to lead needs to also include the other work that's being done on China. And I first want to commend Senator Schumer for his leadership on the CHIPS bill. We are to the point, as you all know, that we're down to 12% of the semiconductor chips produced in America, and one of our big efforts is to increase our domestic production, so we are not dependent on other countries in the world as China moves into potentially moves into this space. Another thing that our party stands for big time is standing up for the American workforce, because if we're going to compete internationally with China, and we need to have the best workers in the world, and what we need to do is give them the tools to do their jobs. That, to me, in this modern day means childcare, it means housing, it means the work that we're doing right now and that we would like to get done with the House of Representatives so that we can add more workers to our workforce. My state has the lowest unemployment rate in the country. We need more workers. Number one reason that people have left the workforce is that they don't have the childcare, and that's why you see so many chambers behind us on this issue. And so to me, when we look at our competition with China, we need to raise our standards when it comes to the number of people able to work, whether it's immigration reform, whether it's the work that must be done to make it easier for our workers to work. We shouldn't be shutting out the world's talent when it comes to American excellence. And so I think when we think about what's to come and the rhetoric that you might have heard from the Republicans, I think it's really important to focus on what agenda is putting us in a better place when we look at competing with China. Final thing is just our allies around the world and the importance of this administration building this incredible network of allies, waking it from its slumber as we deal with the war in Ukraine, and how important that's going to be for us, not just for security, but also for trade and our economic prowess as we go forward into the future when we have China threatening us economically. Thank you.
Senator Padilla, who, as Amy mentioned, gave beautiful remarks about Senator Feinstein today in our lunch.
Well, thank you, Leader Schumer. I've been asked to also speak about the great milestone we're achieving today with the confirmation of the 100th judge under the Biden administration. But before I do, I just wanted to take a moment to also acknowledge my colleague, the senior senator from California, in her announcement this afternoon. You know, it would be impossible to write the history of California politics. It'd be impossible to write the history of American politics without acknowledging the trailblazing career of Senator Dianne Feinstein. Now, trust me, as a proud Californian, California has been privileged to have been represented and served by Dianne Feinstein for so many years. I've been proud to work with her for many, many years and truly alongside her for the last two. From her leadership of the assault weapons ban that Leader Schumer referenced earlier, to her leadership of environmental protection, from the redwoods in California to Joshua Tree and so many communities in between, her advocacy for women's rights. It's just a sweet, poetic justice that she was elected to the Senate in 1992, the year of the woman, alongside Senator Boxer from California at the time. Her championing of marriage equality. She's a former mayor of San Francisco, after all, and so much more. But I want to be clear, as she was clear with us in caucus, she's not done yet. We have more than a year and a half left. She has chosen not to run again, but she will serve out the remaining part of this term, and we have a lot of work to do. Now, on the topic of the milestone, we're celebrating for all Americans the 100th judge confirmed. It's, I believe, a fulfillment of a promise made by both President Biden at the outset of his administration, as well as this Democratic majority, to rebuild the federal judiciary in a way that better reflects the beautifully diverse country that it serves. To communities like mine and states like mine, that kind of representation not only matters, it is long overdue. Diversity of ideas, diversity of, yes, racial and social backgrounds, but also diversity of professional experience and life experience. Our historic work not only includes the confirmation of the first black woman to the United States Supreme Court, but the first former public defender to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. And to give you a glimpse of what it's meant for California, the confirmation of Judge Sunshine Sykes, the first Native American federal judge in California, the confirmation of Judge Ana de Alba, the first Latina to serve on the Eastern District of California, and Judge Jinsuk Ota, the first AAPI woman to serve in the Southern District of California, and I can name more. The bottom line is, this is history-making progress under the leadership of President Biden and under the leadership of Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats. But as we all know, there remain many, many more vacancies to fill, so we've got to keep up the momentum and continue this tremendous progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Leader Schumer. I know you said you still have some questions about the flying objects. I think Americans have a lot of questions about the flying objects. Do you think the president should address the nation on this?
Well, that'll be up to him. We know that our Defense and Intelligence departments are analyzing every piece of this. They're gaining more knowledge all the time. There's quite a bit of information out there, and there'll be more to come. Yes, yes. Lady in, yes, you, yes.
Leader Schumer, the argument for Capitol was fired yesterday, and I wonder what you left behind here and about the sheriff's. Do you have any thoughts?
We thought it was appropriate he be fired. Senator Klobuchar and I asked the administration to fire him months ago, and we're glad they did.
Leader Schumer.
Yes, Bolton.
Leader Schumer, you just heard from senior administration officials about the balloon and the UFOs. Why is it now necessary for Senator Tester to do a subsequent investigation?
Well,
are you not getting enough answers from them?
No, we're getting plenty of answers. The question that looms, and we asked them in the room, is what happened 3 years ago when we saw that there were these objects flying over parts of America, Texas, Florida, Guam, I think a piece of Hawaii, and we want to find out why it took until now. Now, they're upgrading their radars, they're upgrading everything, but we still should know that answer.
Leader Schumer.
Yes.
Senator,
Gentlemen.
3 months since the midterms, has there been adequate self-reflection in New York from top Democratic leadership, from the governor, about what went wrong?
Yeah, I believe that, the numbers are still just coming in, the exact numbers, AD by AD, district by district, and I believe the leaders of New York are going to sit down and try to figure out how we can do better next time. Yes, way in the back. Well, of course, we want to see what CBO has to say, but ultimately Treasury will set it. We're continuing to speak about how bad it would be to let the nation default, how it's not an abstract concept, it's going to affect every American family badly, and we're continuing, President Biden, Leader Jeffries, myself, our caucus, to talk to Leader McCarthy and say, show us your plan. He has not. He said he wants to make cuts. He has an obligation to show what those cuts are. Now, I think he's beginning to feel the impetus of our remarks, because yesterday he said he was going to try to put together a plan that all 218 Republicans can support. I think that's going to be easier said than done. I think he's going to have a rough time getting any plan that all the caucus can support, because the hard right people want the kind of deepest cuts, and the more mainstream people don't want as many. And one other thing on Social Security. So many Republicans, House Republicans, have talked about cutting Social Security. We know, of course, what Senator Scott said. We know what his 10-year plan, the 10-year plan that some of these MAGA Republicans want to do is. But the House Republican, what's the word called? The House Republican Study Committee, which represents a majority of House members, called for three things: privatizing Social Security, cutting some of the benefits in Social Security, and raising the age. So there has been a Republican drumbeat to cut Social Security and Medicare, and we are going to fight this and fight this and fight this until it is dead, dead, dead. Thank you, everybody.